who is Dr. Herand Markarian? There are so many facets to this man. We would like to bring him to the community. So far, he's been bringing the culture and arts to us, but I think very few of us have actually had a close-up look at Dr. Markarian. So
my father was born in a village called Shushans, and that is a suburb, practically a suburb of Van. So it's very like 10 minutes from Van, not more than that. And Shushans, just a vignette also, Shushans as a village was named after Princess Shushanig, the daughter of Sennacherib Takavor, King Sennacherib, who, when his daughter, when Shushanig was to be married, he gave her a dowry. And the dowry was this site, the village, the slope of a mountain overlooking the Lake of Van. So my father was born there, and he, during his childhood, he served in the church as a deacon. Then he came to America for a short while. Then after, when the massacres began, he volunteered in the voluntary army. He went back, and by then his wife was killed, his son was killed, so he joined the volunteer armies and migrated with them and went settled in Iraq. My mother, on the other hand, was again born in a village called Doni. Again, it's very close, nearby Van. Nearby is one of the suburbs of Van. And she lost her father. Her father was killed. They tied him on a watermill and drowned him that way all night long. His mother was killed. His brother was killed. And she too migrated, and they met in Iraq and they got married. I was born in Basra in Iraq. And practically 99% of the people in Basra were all from the Vaspuragan area. So we spoke the Vaspuragan dialect, which is different from the Western. It's with the ha, the kha sounds are different. And we had a school, a grammar school there, which was very, very good, as a matter of fact. So my education in Armenian, Vartan, is up to 6th grade.
Who influenced you? Who put into you that the Haigagan Vuki, Armenian spirit?
I don't know. I guess.
Where did it all begin?
Well, it's part you grow up with. I remember very vividly in my family, my father had 3 sisters, and each sister had like 3 sons. So practically every night, his nephews would come to our home and they would play cards. And during the playing, they would talk about their stories. Each person had a different story. And here I am, a child, sitting there listening to these guys. Listening. They were talking about fedais, they were talking about the fights, they were talking about massacres, they were talking about migrations, they were talking about the sufferings and things like that. So all these things kind of get into you. And when you come to an age of realization, you find out that, hey, I am a link of a chain. If I can, that chain, that link has to be strong. And I tell my children, my son, my daughter, I said, listen, I'm not going to leave that chain weak. I'll give you the chain. It's up to you from there on. You keep it the way you want it. So, in the language, I always loved, as a matter of fact, literature, even in childhood. I loved the art. I loved the cinema.
The stage.
I loved it.
But Herand, as you said, there's no money in learning Armenian. But you are a chemist. You got a PhD as a chemist. So what kind of preparation did you have to take on higher education in the United States?
I come from, my family was not a rich family. My father died when I was only 13 years old. So there was no income in the family. My sisters, God bless them, they all worked to support the family. And luckily, the colleges in Iraq at the time were free. We didn't pay anything. And I was, relatively speaking, a good student, I should say. And the government of Iraq sponsored me to come to the States, I wouldn't have been able to. So they sponsored me to come to the States to major in, to get my master's and PhD degrees in chemistry. And this is something that a lot of people may not know. As I was doing my because of my love, the second love, which is theater, of course, theater, language, aesthetics, paintings, and things like that. So what I used to do, I used to go to the lab early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, get my work done, all my research, up until 6 o'clock at night, in the evening. Then from there on, I would go to the village, Greenwich Village, and study theater. So it was a combination of science in the morning up until 6 o'clock, and from 8 to about 10 o'clock, it was theater and science. And in those days, in 1960s, you had the hippies, you had the movements, those kinds of things. So I was in that quote-unquote free society where you can write anything and everything. Then after that, because of my love and I wanted to also kind of continue my theatrical, so I joined the studio, Schreiber Studio in New York, where I was among one of 13 playwrights, and we were kind of examining our works. Then I studied at Tisch School at NYU to kind of, just study, like make it more professional. So theater and science, in this case, went side by side. A lot of people ask, what's the difference? I mean, how can you bring in theater and science together? It is not unusual, really. It's not. Chekhov was an MD. Oscar Wilde was an MD, but he is known more as a playwright. August Strindberg, was a chemist. So these guys, and when I've thought about this a lot, you see, the approach is the same. In chemistry, in physics, in sciences, what a scientist does, he tries to go deep into things, into the matter, try to understand from the surface down to the molecules, from the molecules to the atoms, from atoms to the electrons, and try and see the interactions of these things. In human behavior, we do the same thing. I look at you, or I look at a behavior, I say, what's the problem? What is the issue? Why this thing? So I go deeper. What are the problems? What is he facing? What is she facing? What kind of problems did she have? So the approach is the same, trying to kind of dig into the human soul, in this case, understand what a complex thing it is, really, for us. So chemistry, and the good thing about it is being a scientist and a playwright at the same time. They say your brain works in two sections. You have your science, or works from the right hand, and the thing from the left. A lot of times they fight with each other, but at the same time they come to a conclusion. Hey, let's agree on something.
Let me ask you: do you have brothers or sisters?
I don't have brothers. I have 3 sisters.
And where are they?
They are in the States. My all 3 sisters are here in New York, as a matter of fact.
And tell us, since you settled, you got married, and you have 2
children. I knew my wife Janet from Baghdad. We were in the same organization, the college organization there. But I came before her. I came in 1962. She came in 1964. She graduated as an MD in Iraq.
Oh, in Iraq.
Yeah, she was in Iraq. Graduated, as a matter of fact, she graduated on top of her class. In Baghdad, she's the only Armenian girl, only Armenian for that matter, who was the valedictorian of the medical school in Iraq. So she came and she was accepted at Cornell Medical School for her training, where she finished her training as a pathologist, surgical pathologist, and she was a professor, full professor in medicine at Cornell Medical School until her retirement. She decided to retire. We have 2 children. My son's name is Gamk.
I'm fascinated with 2 names, and Yeraz.
And Yeraz is my daughter. And
why did you name Gamk?
It's interesting. Gamk was going to be born on April 20th. And we decided, that year, since April 24th was so close, we decided to name him Gamk because our willpower is still strong. So we have willpower to live. So that's why he was named Gamk, and Yeraz was going to be born in November. And then in November, in November 29, the Soviet Union took over Armenia. So, but we said, our Yeraz has not died. We still have that dream one day to be free, and we were not wrong.
How do you find the time for all the many writings and the research and community activities you're involved with?
It's a very, very difficult. You have 24 hours in a day. If you are working, you spend like 8 hours working. By the time, if you have a family, you have to attend to the family. And so a lot of times, I'm lucky. I'm lucky because my wife, the support that I have from her is tremendous. She's kind of not only supporting, but I'll tell you, whatever I write, she's my first critic.
You need that.
Yeah, she's there. She's encouraging. She's supporting. So basically, what you're doing, in a way, every one of us, you, I, and the rest of us, we steal time from the family. Stealing means, I'm not saying that you're taking it like in a bad way, but you have a family that supports you, and so that if the family doesn't support you, then you can't.
Absolutely.
You may have the urge, you may have the thing. The thing that's good also, I think a lot. I don't waste time. A lot of times when I have like a moment or two or three, I think about issues, and they are boundless of issues in my mind. There's one writer of the 12th century. His name was Frik. Frik has a statement, and I'll say it in Armenian. I'll try to translate it into English. Frik says in Armenian, in the Armenian of those days, he says, Hans medzamedz khorhurt ari vor havidian vonch kadari. I thought of so many immense ideas that eternity will not be enough for them to be realized.
Many times we want to do more, but I agree with you. You need the support of the family, but also when your spouse is with you, involved in the issues you are involved, that makes a major difference in your life. You've been on stage from a very young age.
I started out in 1956. That was my first play.
What was it?
As a matter of fact, I felt the role of the poet in Jacob Baronian's Medzabadiv Muratskaner. Interestingly, they gave me the role of the poet at that age. I loved literature, of course, but so that was kind of so interesting. But I'm not going to stop. It's not the stopping, and I'm writing right now. I'm in full. I have 27 plays. I've written 27 plays, and if God willing, if time permits, I have like 10 more somewhere sitting in my brain in different places that are waiting to come out. So 216 makes how many years that I've been on the stage? I don't know.
50, 60 years. It's
60
a lot.
years,
It's a
something
long
like that.
time.
Yeah.
Very fruitful years, if I may add.
What I may say, I don't know. People may disagree with me, or may. We should have getting prepared for the centennial 10 years ago.
I think everybody will agree with you.
Sadly enough, maybe it was too difficult for us. Maybe we're so much involved in other things. We didn't plan it correctly. We should have, what we're doing, every individual, every organization is doing something. We don't have a coherent program, national coherent program that would have taken the priorities or listed them. These are the things. I think the entire year should have been a commemorative event, but it had to be collectively, it had to be done together. Every organization is doing something. I'm doing this book. Someone else is doing something else. It is my obligation. Of course, it's my obligation, but at the same time, it would have been much more effective had it been like I would know in January this is what's going to happen. In February this is what's going to happen. Along the year had to be this kind of events, one next to the other, and complementary events. Nobody had thought about writing about Armenian writers. So I did the job. I mean, it's a personal thing. Nobody, I am not getting commissioned for this work. Nobody commissioned it.
You know, over the past 100 years, we have good reasons to say what were the problems. But I believe today, in the year 2015, as we greet another new century of Armenian life, there's a lot of hope. There is a lot of yeraz and gamk in our people, in the youth. They may not be doing it the way we would like them to do it, but the Armenian spirit is strong and alive within the youth.
I agree.
And what do you foresee the next 100 years to be? What do like you're a visionary, you are a community activist, your pulse, you feel the pulse of the people.
Well, I trust our new generation. I trust them fully, as a matter of fact, and I hope that they take whatever had happened. Think about the past, plan today for tomorrow. That's basically what each individual, because my life is just coming to an end, but the youth who are in their 20s, I mean, they have we have a country, Armenia is flourishing, and we have to work Armenian diaspora together, because after all, if anybody gets hurt, the other one gets hurt too. So that is the ultimate thing. Together with Armenia, we could really plan our future. Or even if we don't plan it, at least be ready for the changes that may happen. And that is the essence of the things. We may not be able to plan everything, but if we have to be ready to react, we have ready to take on tasks. And that readiness is critical for our nation.